What's going on, everybody? Doc, Average Gamer Guys, back yet again. Escape from Tarkov, and today, quick, short, down and dirty. We're talking about 12.11 recent Pastili podcast with Nikita and some other members of the Tarkov community. Some really cool streamers. And I know there's probably a lot of videos out there, but I figured let's cover it. And in addition to just kind of covering the core of what was in that podcast and the questions that get answered, I also want to give a couple of my opinions, I guess, perceptions, and some things I'm thinking about with the news that we got. So we're going to jump into that. I'm going to do a really quick plug. Likes, comments, subscriptions. If you're stopping in, welcome to the channel. Check it out. We got a whole bunch of EFT content. If you're coming back, thank you so much for your continued support. Also, probably flashing across your screen right now. Links in the description, Twitter, Twitch, Discord. Give us a follow over there. Join the Discord. 8:30 Eastern Standard Time, Fridays and Saturdays. We stream, do a bunch of EFT. Just did some streams this past weekend. Got our tracksuit, all tasks complete. So we are complete for the wipe, which I'm very excited about. And we did it on stream, which was a whole lot of fun. So some images are going to flash across the screen as I talk through this. I want to show off some of the artwork that Battlestate Games leaked for the new factory expansion. So 12.11, factory expansion is coming. It's going to be about twice the size. Really cool. It looks really good. It is going to open up to be the doorway both to streets of Tarkov as well as down into labs. And this is a future state thing for kind of the final release of the game where they want all of the maps connected. And so this expansion basically bridges the gap between those couple of locations, which is really cool. The new boss, as soon as the expansion goes live, the new Scav boss, which we've known and seen some models as far as kind of what it looks like with the sledgehammer, he's going to be there. So he's going to have a sledgehammer. He's going to have a Saiga 12. They talked about making it full auto, but they backed away from that because it was too good. So Saiga 12 and the awesome sledgehammer. The sledgehammer, not lootable. So that's important to know. One new PMC spawn to that factory expansion. So again, about twice the size. The art looks awesome. Again, it's probably coming up on screen. But one new PMC. And they talked about maybe adding an additional one after that, but they're going to start with the one, basically test it out, see how the map plays, and then go from there. So I think that's really cool. They also talked about they're going to rework some quests. Well, so some of the locations, some of the areas probably staying pretty similar to what we're familiar with. Some of the areas changing. So they did talk about either some new quests. Usually with an expansion, we see a couple. I think with the customs one, I don't know that we did see anything with the customs one, but we did see it with the woods. So probably some new quests and maybe some adjustments to some previous quests. So probably the biggest thing on everybody's mind right now, especially if you've been playing since the start of this wipe, is there going to be a wipe with 12.11? They said no. They don't plan on it. They don't plan on doing one for a while. That is always subject to change, as always. As far as the release date for this 12.11 patch, probably sometime in June. That's the best guess. It takes about 2 weeks for them to do some testing. They're looking at a couple of other things. I think by the end of May is kind of their cutoff date for new content or bug fixes or whatever else they're going to put into the patch. 2 weeks of testing. So we'll probably see it sometime in June. They may change their mind about a wipe from now until then, but it is what it is. No wipe planned. In addition to that, there's a bunch of other stuff that they're adding, which I think is really cool. Scav Karma is coming, the first iteration of it. And there's a lot of really neat stuff, but if you're not familiar with what this is, it's basically where your actions while you play as your Scav are gonna either increase or decrease your Scav Karma. If you decrease your Scav Karma far enough, Scavs are going to attack you on sight, bosses are going to attack you on sight, and there's going to be, I'm sure, some other types of penalties. In addition to, the lower your Scav Karma, the worse your Scav gear is going to be. If you end up being a really nice Scav and doing good Scav things, you can increase your Scav Karma. That's going to come with better gear as you level it up. In addition, that will be basically Fence's reputation. If you get Fence to a high enough level reputation, you're going to have access to different items to be able to purchase from him. The big key jump being that the items that you'll be able to purchase will be things that were left uninsured in a raid, which is really cool. So it's going to basically be the opposite of what Prepor, Mechanic, and Therapist can offer. Fence will offer it on the back end for anything uninsured that's left in a raid. Now, a quick side note, this is kind of the opinion piece here. I'm curious to see if that is going to be, if Fence is going to have access to the items left in labs. This is a big do out for me, and I've been thinking about this since it's been talked about because I think about the amount of items that are going to get uninsured when you bring them into a raid. For most part, it's either going to be lower level gear, players that maybe don't have the money to insure, or maybe you forget. But I can't imagine that the pool of items is going to be very big. And if it is, I don't imagine it's going to be very good gear. Nothing that you wouldn't see from Fence normally. If Fence has the access to labs where you can't, it doesn't make any sense to bring insured gear in. So a lot of people, myself included, we don't insure our gear when we go into labs because it can't be recovered. If that pool of loot is open, then there's going to be some very, very good loot available from Fence. So this is pure speculation. I'm hoping that they do allow that. And maybe it's a certain percentage. Maybe it's not everything. But even if it was like armor and weapons at a minimum, I think that would be really cool. Or even certain attachments, certain things like that. So more to follow on that. This is the first iteration of it. We don't have a ton of details outside of that. But I'm really excited. I think that's going to be really, really neat. Levels of malfunctions. The first level of malfunctions are actually on their way with this. So if you're not familiar with this, malfunctions are currently in the game, but you have to get your weapon durability really, really low, which is very hard to do. So they talked about that this is going to be the first iteration of this. They also talked about that scavs actually, instead of coming in with basically perfect weapons, there's hopefully a good chance that they come in and their weapons are at a degraded status, which would increase the percent chance of having a malfunction. We're talking weapon jams here. I think this is going to be really interesting. It's definitely going to change some fights. It's going to be very frustrating, but it is kind of a level of realism and makes you pay a little bit more attention to your gear instead of taking the same HK in on your 7 win streak. You got to pay attention to it a little bit. So I'm excited about that. They talked about redoing all the sites. They're basically going to level those out, basically make site adjustments to make them all much better is really where they said. Again, I talked about no wipe planned as of yet. They talked about VoIP is on its way, probably in 12.12 or later. So that is a future state thing. Next wipe, they're hoping. Lighthouse, they said sometime coming in the summer. We expect Lighthouse to come with patch 12.12, and they are basically finalizing what the final look of that is going to be, the final layout, and then they can start rolling from that. So I'm really excited for a new map. I think factory expansion, especially if there is no wipe, and Scav Karma are going to be two good things for 12.11 that can kind of revitalize the game a little bit, especially since a lot of players are really post-wipe content gameplay right now. Have as much money as they want, so on and so forth. So that's the base details. That's the real overbroad highlights. I'll give a couple of things that I'm excited about. Again, factory expansion. I think that map is well due for one. I think that's going to change up the gameplay a little bit, still make it really fun from a PvP aspect, and hopefully, as they have with all of the other expansions, bring some new loot to it. I think that's one area where Factory could really use a little bit of love. So hopefully they bring in some tech containers, they bring in some cool spawns, maybe ratchet wrenches, which I'm having a really hard time finding on hardcore. Maybe certain spawns like that they can put into the map. I think that would be really cool. New Scav boss, absolutely going to be a blast. They talked about that they're basically trying out some new AI mechanics with him specifically. And I think that just really opens the door for future Scav bosses, future like Raider AI and different things to be able to test this out with the boss specifically. And I think that's going to be really cool. So that should be a lot of fun. It should be a lot of fun to hunt him. Nikita did talk about it. Basically, he's kind of a meme boss a little bit, and I think that's going to be really fun, very much like Killa is. So I think that's going to be really interesting. No wipe. I know a lot of people are looking for a wipe. I wouldn't necessarily hate a wipe here in a couple of weeks. I also understand some of the things that they're implementing, like Scav Karma, again, factory expansion. It might make sense to get some weeks, a month, 6 weeks or whatever, of gameplay with those new mechanics and with this new map and some of the things that they're introducing before they wipe. It'll give a good test phase. They've done a lot from a testing standpoint this wipe. So what I always look at is the next wipe going to be better. We hope it's going to be in a lot of different mechanics, the economy, quest progression, maps, bug fixes. So my hope is that maybe they do 12.11, don't wipe, test some other things out, introduce some new things, test the Scav Karma system out, and then when 12.12 rolls, which will probably be a wipe. We get a new map, we get a whole bunch of new quests, we get a bunch of new content to be excited for on top of a wipe, in addition to it being better and having those other things that they introduced worked on and fixed. So that is what it is. Those are some of my perceptions, kind of my opinions. I'm excited for some new quests. Like I said, with the factory expansion, I think that'll be really fun. Obviously, we'll probably see some stuff from Jaeger about hunting the new boss. I think, again, a new factory expansion is going to pull players in because there's going to be more content to do and kind of a new, quote-unquote, new place to go. We saw the same thing with Woods. We saw the same thing with Customs. Those maps were just getting flooded with players because they wanted to check it out. They wanted to see what it was all about. So I think while a lot of people might be disappointed that there is no wipe, I think that new content, even though it's not a new map, is going to kind of revitalize a lot of the player base. It'll definitely give me something to do, probably a lot of you something to do. And the other thing is, Factory, I think, has always been a good place for PvP, but with the low player count, it's pretty easy to wipe Factory. I think adding one PMC is going to help that. A little bit bigger of an area to get your fights in, and maybe some of your engagements are not quite, within the first 10 or 15 seconds. And I think that will make that map a whole lot of fun. And I look forward to exploring it. I think it's going to be really neat. And then Scav Karma. I haven't played my Scav in months. So this will be a new, interesting way to jump in, do some Scav raids, see what this Karma system's about, see if my thought on Labs loot is going to filter in. If it does, I think that will really help to drive people trying to get a high Scav Karma. You might also want a challenge. You might want to just tank your Scav Karma so you can aggro bosses, aggro raiders, have everybody pull to you. That might be another tactic that would be very interesting to see, especially at the beginning of a wipe, of an interesting way maybe to pull some good gear quick, especially if you're pretty proficient in the game. Now, granted, if you have low Scav Karma and you're going in with pistols and then bosses are attacking you, you might have a hard time actually making it through, though. So we'll have to see how that system works. I look forward to testing it out and them obviously making adjustments as we go. So down and dirty, that's what I got. Again, hopefully you enjoyed the screenshots. Hopefully you're enjoying all the content. Again, if you're stopping in and this is one of the first videos, take a look at the rest of the stuff that we got. We got a hardcore series, whole bunch of other. We're going to be starting some guides now. I think now is a good time for us to do some guides. So just talking about some things that we've learned in our hours with the game and hopefully helping the community out as well. And again, if you ever want to come catch us out on Twitch, 8:30 Eastern Standard Time, Fridays and Saturdays, randomly throughout the week. Discord is the best place to be. Links in the description. I've been Doc, Average Gamer Guys. Always thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next Escape from Tarkov video. Peace.